So the question is, do you have children?
I have no children.
All right. So are you concerned about the future? In terms of all the possible environmental changes, nuclear war, radiation.
I'm optimistic about the future.
Okay.
Because I believe in humankind, and I believe that we now know what works and what doesn't work. We learn in a very curious way by experiencing first what we don't want before we don't want it. So we experienced not one world war, but two, and we said it'll never happen again, and I believe it will not. I think we'll come close. I don't think we will have a world war. We experienced nuclear meltdowns, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, Fukushima. I don't think we're going to see that happening again. I think it takes work to change the way we think about ourselves, and we just talked about this in other interviews. There are forces happening behind the scenes that are not public, and what the public sees is the opinion of the media that is sharing their perspective of the story rather than objective news. And that opinion is creating a lot of fear. I am hopeful. I am aware. When you say the word concerned, I think we have a responsibility to create the best world possible and to bring to bear upon the conditions of the world what we now know to be true in our lives. We have that responsibility for ourselves and for future generations. And I feel that responsibility. And my life is dedicated to bringing to the forefront the new discoveries that help us to change the way we think and the way we live our lives in the best way possible. The word concern sometimes implies worry. I'm not worried because I do believe in us. I believe in the momentum of life. This planet wants to live, and this planet has chosen life. We're going a very circuitous route to get there, but I believe that we have made that choice. And the beauty, what the new discoveries are showing, the quantum discoveries, is the entire planet does not have to make the choice for the choice to become a reality. A relatively few number of people, very conscious awareness, have the ability to shift that field and to move us in a very positive direction. And that is what wakes me up every morning, and that's what that is what drew me to this conference, and that's why I work with my brothers, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, and so many other people who believe something, I think it's fair to say, in a similar vein. So we do have a responsibility, and I think that responsibility, we're becoming aware of the magnitude of that responsibility right now. That's my personal feeling.
All right, Bruce, I asked you before about your grandchildren.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, he has children.
I have children and grandchildren,
Yeah.
and it's I have concern, not concern of the negative side, concern that there's an issue we have to deal with, and that we will deal with it. My optimistic side, along with my brother Gregg, is that I know that we're in a stage of evolution, and that there's an awakening of consciousness on this planet. And when consciousness is awakened, then people will have choices. And right now they don't have choices, they've been programmed. Mm-hmm. So the reality is, as we awake, then we can see other opportunities besides the ones that people are directing toward us. And this is the foundation of conscious evolution, which is the experience that we're in right now. So we've been programmed, just like in the movie The Matrix. But there's the
documentary, The Matrix.
Documentary, The Matrix, and yet we know that we can take that red pill, and that's consciousness. And when we get out of the program, we are free to create. I trust the population in their creation. I do not trust the small, less than 1% that is manipulating the population. But their time is coming to an end, because when we awake, that small group will disappear, because the larger group will just cover it all over.
You know, one of the things I've found in the last 5 years, I've been blessed to travel this world in a way that very few people have, except for my colleagues. I've been on every continent, not every nation. But
No, you didn't do Antarctica.
I have not done Antarctica.
I haven't done Antarctica.
There's no bookstores there.
Oh, jeez.
They have an ATM now. I've been on every continent of the earth except Antarctica, not every nation. And I've been with the people. And what I have come to understand is the people of this world know how to live, know how to cooperate, and know how to get along and prefer to do so. It's a relatively few number of people in high levels of power that are bumping chests right now. They're the ones that are having a difference of opinion. It's not the people. And that, to me, that's good news. It's very good news because there are a lot of people on this planet, and there are not so many leaders on this planet.
Yeah.
So as people are awakening to the new possibilities, and that's why we do what we do, then they, through their elected officials or through other means, are saying, we now know that we have a choice. We now know that there are new forms of energy that don't burn fossil fuels. There are new forms of healing that don't require pharmaceuticals. There are all the food that we need already exists on the planet. Why are these people starving? People are waking up to that, and they're saying, this is the world that we choose to have. And that's where a lot of my optimism comes from.
Yeah. Once we started to see this black fungus growing on the walls inside the reactor, it became clear that they're in the midst of all the radioactivity, and yet they're growing. And so the scientists were, of course, very curious as how can a life form exist in the reactor area? And the reason why it exists is because it's not just fungus, but it's black fungus. And the black in the fungus is from a protein called melanin, okay? Melanin is a pigment. That's why the black color from it. But it turns out that the melanin will, the word is transduce, take radioactive energy and transduce it into biological energy. So the fungus is actually living off of the radioactivity, and that's where it gets its energy from. So you go, wow, that's interesting for the fungus. And I go, yeah, but the most important part is the same melanin is in all of our skin right now. We have melanin from top to bottom in skin. If the fungus can transduce the radioactivity, then so can we. And the biggest thing we have is a fear. And the fear is what will stall any healing or any ability to stay safe. Fear shuts down the immune system. Fear shuts down growth. And as a result, we have to get out of the fear because radioactivity, just you say the word, induces fear in people. So we have to empower people, and we have to give them some knowledge and basically say that we can thrive in this, actually not die, but we can thrive. And as far as I know, the wildlife and plants around Chernobyl are growing quite wonderfully in spite of the radioactivity. Of course, I haven't been there, so I'm only taking that from reports that I know. I mean, I think they even have tourists to go see this. So it's a very positive sign. Look at nature. We recover. Nature is resilient. My brother Gregg talks about resiliency quite a lot, and it basically says, we are stronger than people tell us. And when you put the fear in somebody, you weaken them. And this is an opportunity to say, no, look, let's find out who we really are. And Gregg and I have the opportunity, and it's just the most wonderful opportunity to go and help people take their power back. And this is what we need. We have been disempowered by programming. And it's time for us to wake up. And this is what the conscious evolution process we're in now. People are waking up. They're not buying the old stories like they used to. They're questioning everything, every level, from government to science to religion. It's all in question. This is the opportunity to become aware, more knowledge. Knowledge is power. And when we have that power, we'll see that we do not have to be afraid. The end point is, if we look at this moment, we see that we're facing the sixth mass extinction of life. And the significance is that human behavior is undermining the web of life, and people don't realize that we are the web of life, that we're not separate from this web. So when the web drops out, people drop out. So this awakening is coming to people right now. It's, you know, I talked about it in 2012 when we gave a talk in Washington, that this mass extinction is in process. And the only way out of this mass extinction is for humans to change their behavior. And I said, well, what would be the result? What will we look for? And I say, actually, since I've been working with Native Americans, and my brother Gregg has also worked with Native Americans, then you start to see people who learn how to live on the planet, live in harmony with each other, but also live in harmony with the plants and the animals and everything that's alive on this planet. We have lost that message. We have eliminated most of the Aboriginal people who live that way. It is an awakening that says, no, we must learn what they know, and we must take it and bring it into our world today. How do you live in nature, not as the destructor that we are right now, but as the original intention, gardener. We're supposed to recreate the Garden of Eden. And it's interesting because when humans have destroyed a place and left, within a very short time, 50 years or so, the environment completely returns to the lush garden that it was before humans were there. So it basically says nature is moving always toward the garden. We are the impediment. We are the ones that are making the trouble. As consciousness is advanced, we know our role, we know our relationship, which is different than we have been programmed to believe, our relationship with nature and the universe around us. We will become empowered to be those gardeners. And this beautiful planet will flourish. It will do so without us, but we could be here and encourage it as well, because we were really given that job. People think that we got here through accidents of evolution. This is completely false. We got here through adaptation, that as environments change, organisms change. And every time a new organism comes into the world, it's more powerful in controlling balance and harmony than the previous one. And here we are near the top of the pile, given the most power to control the environment, but no knowledge that that was our job. And then you misuse that power as we have, and the result is, rather than maintaining the garden, our misuse is destroying the garden. If we return to why are we here, because nature brought us in to tend the garden and be very powerful in doing it. And so will we awake to what is our natural evolutionary plan? We're in the process of conscious evolution, the point of being aware of who we are, why we're here, and how to make the best of it. I'm very optimistic on the basis of watching over the last number of years, and my brother Gregg and I both have been giving lectures for years when our audience is getting bigger and bigger. And what does it mean? There are more and more people ready to take the role of gardeners, caretakers, keepers of this beautiful planet, and this is in our immediate future.
Mine will be shorter. I think what we're finding is the closer we live to nature, obviously, and intuitively we know this, the more harmonious we are with nature, the more successful we are as a species. And sometimes it takes tragedy to remind us of that. And a beautiful example is September 11th. A horrible tragedy, but it taught scientists something that they had not embraced in the past. We are steeped in the belief that we are separate from our world, that nature is based in competition, conflict, and struggle. Now, the new discoveries are telling us nature is based in cooperation and mutual aid. That's a very different way of thinking. September 11th was a tragedy. But one of the things that scientists found, I'm a geologist, so I look at this from a geologic perspective. We measure the magnetic fields of the Earth every 30 minutes on this planet because they touch every form of life, every blade of grass, every dog, every cat, every CEO of every corporation, every leader of every nation. There is no them and us when it comes to the magnetic fields. So when 9/11 happened, scientists were measuring those magnetic fields, and they saw a tremendous spike in the magnetic field of the planet 15 minutes after the first plane hit the first tower of the World Trade Center. And they said, what in the world? What on earth is causing this magnetic spike? Because their thinking, their conditioning is humans could never have an effect upon the magnetic field of a planet. That was the conditioning. What they found, the reality, was that the satellite images carrying that tragedy circled the Earth in less than 15 minutes, and hundreds of millions of people saw it with their eyes, and they responded with their emotions of the heart, and the heart is the strongest magnetic field in the human body. Hundreds of millions of human hearts simultaneously responding actually coupled with the magnetic fields of the Earth, and we spiked the magnetic fields of this planet. And here's why that's important. Because in the presence of a stronger magnetic field, we are more cooperative, less aggressive, and we saw this right after 9/11. our planet was closer as a family than we've been for a long time. People looked at one another in the eyes. They held one another in the street, at least for a couple of days. And scientists attribute that phenomenon to the increased magnetic field, the outpouring of heart-based emotion. So your question to me is, what do I see in our future? I see a time where we are technologically sophisticated, yet we have also embraced the deepest truth of our intimate relationship with our planet. We combine these into a heart-based society where we elevate those magnetic fields and we learn to work together in harmony, in cooperation. And we do it by following, this is so interesting, we do it by following the most ancient and cherished of our spiritual traditions, which are mainly heart-centered. So they have told us for 5,000 years, through the shamans, the monks, the nuns, the healers, the curanderos, whatever it is, in their way. It's not science. Science now is coming full circle and saying, hey, these guys were right. They were onto something. But it doesn't mean we have to live in a monastery halfway around the world. We can embrace these principles in our urban lives in a very practical way to become better people, create stronger families, stronger communities, and ultimately a stronger world in a very conscious way. And that is where I see everything going. And we have learned about that through some of the deepest tragedies of our past. I think our use of nuclear energy falls into that category. The way it's not good or bad, it's how it's applied. And when we developed nuclear energy, it was during a wartime. So it was a wartime mentality that took that beautiful discovery and turned it into something that has hurt many, many people. But that beautiful discovery can be used for many beautiful things as well.
Thank you.
Long answer to a short question.
That was a long answer. Okay, but it's okay.
As long as yours.
But I'd like to just say one last thing. Very simple. A garden is not a battleground. A garden is the height of cooperation. We had a garden, we turned it into a battleground, and the way out is cooperation.
May I quote you on that?
You want to do it on film? Okay.
I'm going to do it my next
You quote each other.
It already has been.
Okay.
There are functional thorium generators in Russia and China, in the United States.
Okay.
But the people, the powers that be, say it's not possible, but it is. The beauty of thorium. So the Manhattan Project, when they were developing the nuclear weapon, they went through the periodic table and said what elements work.
Yeah.
They chose uranium because they needed the byproduct of plutonium for weapons. But there are other minerals, and thorium, element number 90, very abundant on the Earth's surface, very inexpensive. It exists in every nation. It cannot be weaponized. It cannot melt down as Chernobyl or Fukushima because it works on a very different principle. And the waste becomes the fuel. It's not perfect, but it is a stepping stone to get somewhere else. And if they are serious, and I've said, I wrote this in my book.
I need to look into your book.
The book is Resilience. It's the last chapter in Resilience from the Heart, or the turning point.
Interesting, because I'm teaching resilience.
Oh, well, this is about community resilience. It's about personal and community resilience.
Yes.
So we know that thorium is a viable possibility. It's not perfect, but it takes much less of the material to produce much more energy, and it cannot be weaponized. It cannot melt down.
All right, I'll write it down and I will include it into my book.
Yeah, I would definitely look into it.
Sure.
Because solar depends on the weather. Wind depends on the weather. Geothermal depends on the location. Thorium, you can run day and night, any kind of weather. It's a proven technology. China's building the generators. Russia already has them. India has them. India has thorium. In the back of the book, I list where those active generators are, so you can actually look, and the names of them.
Okay, great resource. Thanks very much. Okay, I'll have a look.
So then you're giving an alternative to a bad technology, and that's always the way to do it.
Okay, but